Hey.
Hey, welcome. This is Natalie Hayden
And Laverne Badger.
of Expose,
Exposed.
and we have a lovely guest with us today. As you all know, it's National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we're at the tail end of it, and things have been really on a positive forefront in bringing
Yes.
that awareness to our community, as well as nationally. And Laverne, would you like to introduce our guest to us?
Well, this is an honor for me to introduce our guest because she is now the director president of this organization that once housed me. I was a client and I had to utilize the services with my 4 young children. And I know you all know either you're under a rock and don't know who I'm talking about, but I think you all know who I'm talking about, who this fabulous woman is. And so this fabulous woman is the one and only Carmen Pitre.
Carmen Pitre, yes. As Laverne mentioned, I know myself have come to know Carmen more so now as family because at one point my daughter and I were here housed at Sojourner for a stint of time, and this right here is near and dear to my heart, and we're excited to really have you with us.
I think it's amazing that you're having this podcast, and the most important thing I do in my life every day is I get up and I get to support women like you and men and kids who are hurting. There's way too many people hurting, and I am so lucky that I get to dedicate my life to doing something about that.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So,
And so the full name of the organization is,
Sojourner Family Peace Center,
and you're located?
6th and Walnut, where we like to say safe and healthy meet. It's 619 West Walnut. Stop on by if you have any needs. Walk in, we'll be waiting for you and hopefully be able to help.
Okay. And at the end, we'll make sure that we put a contact number and information. So if there's anybody out there who's actually looking at this that needs some services,
Right.
we'll make sure at the end of this video that those are posted. And so you will have access to Carmen and her team.
Great.
yes, so we're going to go ahead and jump right on in. So Let's Talk has hosted several panel discussions where the shift in focus has included men and to join the space for continued healing while concentrating on the solution-based dialogue of which ends domestic violence, right? So in what capacity, Carmen, has Sojourner Family Peace Center adopted or incorporated engaging the concept of men as part of the continued healing process?
So we were the first batterers treatment program started in the state of Wisconsin in 1983, I believe. It was called Beyond Abuse, and typically we would serve men coming out of the court system after an incident had happened. And we've done some youth work, but for the last 5 years or so, we've been thinking about how to reinvest our efforts and our dollars in bringing men to the table at a different point in the
Love that.
conversation, right? So this year, our board agreed with Mark Thomas and I. We shifted our work with men and our abuser program over to the Alma Center because they're doing an amazing job, trauma-informed, healing-focused
And they've been
work.
around for years.
Right,
Yeah.
and Terry's been a partner of mine. So we moved that work there. We're continuing to work with women who've been convicted in the court system. But what it does is it freed up our energy and our resources to launch a Men and Boys as Allies project this January.
This January
This
coming
January.
up. Okay.
2019. That's awesome.
Yep, we are gonna hire a male organizer, outreach worker who will bring together men and boys to have conversations
Wow.
over breakfast, over lunch, over the weekend, in the format that they agree is the best way to have the conversation. But bring them together to get them to organize themselves around healthy masculinity, how to end violence against women and girls, and what to do about violence against men,
Yes.
right? And
Right.
so I can't do that. I can't teach you about what it means to be
A man. Right.
Yeah, a man,
Right.
and
Right.
they need to do that for themselves. And frankly, it's long overdue that we
Yes.
have not. I mean, let me say it differently. It's way past time that they have a seat at the table and
Yes.
engaging in this conversation.
I totally agree.
So in what capacity does that look like? Will they come here to Sojourner, or will there be a separate location? Will there be pop-up locations as to where?
Well, as Laverne said, I have to stay in my lane. I'm going to give them the opportunity to have conversation, and we're going to support what they think. Of course, I'd love to see it here in the Family Peace Center, but they may not want to meet here.
Yeah.
We want to hear from men talking to other men about where they want to meet, where they want to have conversations, and how they want to do the conversations.
Okay.
So what I know is we're going to hire the worker who's going to begin to organize. We're also going to create an advisory committee. We've talked to a couple of leaders in the community and asked them to be engaged, and they're excited.
Yes.
I love what Andre Ellis is doing.
Yes,
that's a great name to hear.
We
Yes.
love Andre.
I can't promise that he'll be involved, but I've had conversations.
The pressure is on Andre Lee
Yes.
Ellis, just so you know.
Yes.
One of the best things Andre said to me, Carmen, I'm not perfect, but I'm not playing, right? And I
That's-
love
And that is
I
so
love it.
true.
That's honest.
That is so Andre. So
So-
he does great things with boys.
So we've been sort of planting the seed. We want an advisory committee of leaders to come together and really start to organize a platform and a forum for men to have these conversations with boys.
So the men that are coming in, is there an age group? Is this adult men or teenage boys or a combination of
A
both?
combination of both. We have a
Okay.
youth council. In fact, our COO, Mark, just met with MPS, and we'd love to host an all-boys youth summit here at the
Oh.
Family Peace
That
Center.
would be
Yes.
awesome.
Just for young men to come together to learn about domestic violence.
I would
and
love
have
to talk
men-
to you on the Let's Talk side of the
Yeah,
house about
yeah,
that, because
yeah.
I had some ideas about that.
Yeah.
That might be something we could do together.
So
But-
we're going to hold space, and we're going to hire this person and launch it in January and start running at that strategic goal.
Wow.
Of changing the time frame in which we engage with people when violence, before violence has happened. Right?
So that's what it's gonna be.
The
It's not gonna
preventative.
be, set up for men who are mandated to come
No.
somewhere because they've been arrested.
No, it'll be
It's-
for men and boys to have a conversation outside of anything that has occurred or happened or didn't happen. But
It's prior to happening,
Right.
or.
That's
if
our
they're
hope,
feel-
right?
Yeah.
But most of us are walking around with these experiences where things have happened that have hurt us, and we need to talk about it and feel. I think it's very hard to live as a man in this hyper-masculine society.
Yes.
Right? We have
Yeah.
boxed men into a corner where, they have no room to really deal with vulnerability or
Yeah.
fear
Yes.
or anger. So my hope is that we'll be able to prevent and get upstream as much as we can. Because we know we're born and we learn violence, right?
Yes.
We
Yes.
just are down here pulling people out of the river.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right,
Gotta
right,
go-
yeah.
We gotta go upstream.
Yeah.
Yes. So with there's a guy that we just met. His name is Greg. I forgot his last name.
He was
But
on the
he
show
does-
with us, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He does some great work with men,
Mm-hmm.
and he talks about how they house their emotion. There's only a few emotions that men are allowed to have, and that's
Mhm.
anger.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? It was anger. They weren't able to express fear, hurt,
Yeah.
pain,
Sadness, all
sadness.
of that.
They could not express any. The only acceptable one, it was two. I can't remember the other one, but and I'm like, that is ridiculous, but so true.
And you can't claim your humanity if you're living in that sort of trapped space, right? And we've got to create spaces where we can heal that and change those norms.
Yeah.
Men need a more freer place to live from,
Right.
and if we want to have healthy relationships with each other.
Yeah.
So I have a question. National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We share this month with a few other things. However, what does that mean for you? Not just for the month, but just in general.
I when I do my interviews during this month, I always say, it's one time of the year that the community in general focuses on elevating this conversation. We should be doing it every month of the year because it's so
right.
widespread and it's causing so much hurt and harm generationally to all of us. For us, it's a bedrock issue, but we try to do as many activities as we can to get people talking and thinking about their role, right? I want people in the community to think, okay, not just October, I got to care about this issue for my sons, my
Yes.
daughters, my friends, my coworkers, when I'm at church, when I'm at work.
12 months a year.
12 months a year.
Mhm.
So we can change the society that we're drowning in, right?
Yes.
We have so much violence that we're walking around with, hurt and harm in our culture. And there's so many things that are being said these days that are just extra hurtful, right?
Right,
I
right,
did
right,
not
right.
believe we'd be
Yeah.
in this day and age, things that I hear said about and to survivors. So we have a lot of work to do, but it is a one time a month where we sort of lift it all up. And for me, we honor the experience of survivors. I wouldn't be here if you had not survived and you lived in our shelter with your 4 kids and you and your daughter had not done well, right? There's no purpose for me to be here other than that, to make sure that that happens
Right.
for the thousands of people. But again, I'll say like Andre, I'm not perfect, but I'm not playing.
Right.
And we can tell that
Right,
for sure.
right.
So we have maybe another question or two. Expose Podcast mission and purpose is to continually provide a transparent space for evolving, engaging, and educating our viewers, listeners, and guests on solution-based strategies on ending abuse. What are 3 solution-based strategies or suggestions for listeners having never experienced abuse and becoming aware and involved at the very least, compassionate to understanding what someone may be, going through as a survivor or a victim?
I think we should prepare ourselves to listen, to believe people when they come forward. Don't say, well, why didn't you X, Y,
Right.
Z?
Right.
So I think in order to listen, you have to deal with your own hurt and harm, right?
Right.
If you're carrying around pain that needs to be transformed, transform it. So that when somebody comes, you can say, I hear you and I believe you. There's 3 messages I think survivors always need to hear. You're not alone, it's not your fault, and I'm here to help. So I'm here to help means, what do you need, Laverne?
Right.
What do you need, Natalie? And then follow you as you're getting access to the things that you need. Respecting your autonomy, your self-determination, and your right to confidentiality, right? That's my job as an advocate. So I think in the community, you shouldn't be saying to people, well, just leave or go to a
Right,
shelter.
right.
Do you know what it takes to pack your bags and go to a shelter? Do you know what that feels? So we have to be the people that say, okay, if I'm gonna say, here's some medicine, right? Here's something you should do. I should at least understand what that is. So understand some of the basics would be the second solution. You know, what does it mean to say to somebody, well, call the cops? Well, what happens when they, right? All of that.
Yeah.
So get yourself educated. So be people that believe others. Get yourself educated about basic resources. And then look to use your influence in your life,
Absolutely.
right? If
Yeah.
you see somebody hurt, figure out a way that's loving and kind to say, I see you. Natalie, I see that you're here and, are you okay? So be the kind of people that are courageous enough to sort of intervene in ways that are safe, right?
Right.
Give the message that I'm here for you. I'm not going to just be one of those people that ignores it, because we all grew up with that message, right? What happens in that house stays in
In
that
that
house.
house.
We're drowning in
We're
a
done
sea of
with that.
violence.
We're over that.
We got to stop that.
Yes. Yes.
We just had a guest on our show, Mr. Mike Washington, who is he a homicide?
He's a police officer. I'm not
Police
sure
officer
what
in the
division.
homicide unit,
Yeah,
I think.
yes.
And his family we honored at Laverne's Advocate Appreciation Luncheon. And we honored Sherda, who was the victim that lost her life to domestic violence by a husband who was also a cop. And I mean,
It was a murder-suicide.
it was a murder-suicide. So one thing that he did mention was when he received the phone call from mom, because apparently there had been several calls,
Right.
and so he treated it as routine in a
Right.
sense. So he said, I'm not going to get involved.
Right.
Like how do you?
So it was not getting involved in the way of saying I don't love my sister.
Right.
It's not getting involved
In that
meaning
household.
that she's not trusting that she's going to do anything again.
I think
And-
what we have to acknowledge is it's hard to watch somebody you love suffer, right? So that's a difficult place to be. You need
Right.
support when you're trying to provide care to somebody who's struggling.
Right.
And so I would say to anybody who has a friend or family member that is in a situation, get yourself some support. talk to somebody about what you're feeling, so that when you're with that person, you can be in that place of being a listener and trying to help. If you can't do it, find somebody else that can support. That's why advocates are so good, because they're objective, right? They have that objectivity that they can bring. The other thing is, we in this society get frozen, because we're taught, literally, we get afraid. We're taught, don't intervene.
Right.
We have to psychically break that message inside of ourselves, right? We have to be the people who intervene. So figure out how to do that in your life, right? And I have no blame and no judgment. Homicide is just the horrible result. It's like the ultimate form of domestic violence, and it's so painful for everybody. And so I'm sorry that happened. But if you know someone in your life that's struggling, call the hotline. Talk to us about what it might mean to intervene. What can you do? Talk to a pastor.
So you're saying the hotline is just not for
It's for
those
anybody.
victims, it's for someone that may know someone that may need some advice on even how to approach.
Right. We just did a brochure of 10 things you can do to support survivors in your life.
Okay.
It's on our web. I think it's on our website. But it's 10
I think we
things.
saw
I have
that
a pamphlet.
as a voice committee.
I did, yeah.
Right.
Remember that
And we went to you and asked your advice. I think we need to do a lot of work in helping people engage, right? And saying something and making it safe for us to say something. So I do this work, so I've been thinking about it for a long time. I've had people where I would say, I noticed Laverne, I see, or you have a bruise, are you okay? Right? And Laverne may say, yeah, why are you asking me? I'm like, okay, I just wanted you to know I see you and I care about you. Because people won't always disclose the first time, but we have to be available to say, hey, I see you. I'm willing to do something. I might not know what to do, but I can take you down to that building on 6th and Walnut. I can call to the hotline with you. I can be a safe refuge. And I think we need to think about those things so it doesn't trap us and freeze us.
Because a plan is important. And this particular situation, she was going to be divorcing her husband.
Right.
And he knew that.
Yep.
And so that takes things up another notch.
The violence always
And
well, let me say it different. The violence usually increases when the survivor is leaving the situation. Because what happens for the abuser is, I'm used to having you under my control, right? You're leaving me. I got to up the ante, right? I got to do something
to
more
get you
extreme.
back, get my
They need
control
more
back.
leverage.
Either I got to beg you, I got to send flowers, I got to, all of the things that, right? Or I got to blame you, hurt you, threaten you to get you back. And it's an effective strategy.
It is. Been
and-
there myself.
Right, so, we need to be working with people who have that behavior and teaching them alternative strategies. Deal with their pain so they don't project it out here and hurt other people that they care about in their lives. And hopefully start talking to men and boys and women earlier.
Yes, yeah. So is there any, as we're looking at helping male victims, is there a shift in helping, or is it something you're already doing with helping women abusers?
We do have 3 groups a week for women who've been convicted in the court system. I would peel it back a layer and say, if you've been hurt by someone, you deserve to have a space to heal yourself. And we have to create places where that healing can happen, right? And we need to stop counting on punishment to change behavior. Now, people who get convicted, they go through the court system, they end up in a program. That is a possibility for change. But that's still a carrot and a stick or a punishment-based system, right?
Right.
I would like to talk to people before about what is it that is hurting you. Ruby Sales said that, right? The civil rights activist. Where does it hurt and how can I help?
Yes, that sounds familiar.
I'm not sure, but
And
yeah.
I remember listening to that and I thought, that's our work. We have to be saying to each other, where does it hurt and how can I help? Long before you feel like you have to strike out. So to me, I don't think we take despair seriously. We don't take harm seriously enough. We have to figure out how to give some space to people so they can feel their fear, their grief, their brokenheartedness, their anxiety, and then begin to, in their bodies, feel what peace feels like,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's really why the Family Peace Center was created. Again, we're not perfect,
Yes.
but we're dedicated to this idea that you need a space, I need a space. That's the other thing. It's not us and them. You are,
Right.
I'm you, you're me.
Right.
The
Right.
healing that I need to do, I'm working on as I'm doing this work in this building.
Absolutely.
And we're no different in that regard.
Yeah, and that's what Exposed believes, that transparency is healing.
It's
And
healing.
so that's why we love having conversations from different people, those that are directly impacted by domestic abuse, those that are outside of it, that may just have family members involved who are considered bystanders.
Right.
They need to be educated, which the list of things that you gave on how to approach someone that is in an abusive relationship.
Right.
Again, kudos to that. We will be posting that.
Yes, we will.
If we can.
Absolutely.
Posting that, but just being able to speak on how DV affects so many different areas. How does DV has affected you?
Well, I grew up in a violent home as a kid, and for me, it's where, if you had asked me if I'd be doing this work when I first went into college, I would have said no. But it's been my life's work. Every woman when I was a child was abused in my family. The men were not monsters, they didn't know any differently.
Right.
I love them, I still love them. I would not want, the system we've created is difficult because we treat people sometimes as if they are disposable.
Right.
And that's just not the reality in life. So it's impacted everything about my life. My mom she left me overnight because she couldn't take me. Because I imagine in her mind, she's thinking, I have to get out of this relationship. I'm gonna go get myself settled and I'll come back for her. And she never came back. There isn't a relationship in my life that hasn't been impacted by that, right? So, but it gives me responsibility. I have responsibility to heal that. I can't be walking around the world hurting you because I'm hurting.
But your
Right.
mom wasn't unique.
No.
But this Sojourner Family Peace Center is, if there were option, a resource back then,
Yeah.
you know, but there's a resource like that because
Now.
like now, so that was a desperate need to save herself almost.
Right.
And not to dismiss, you know, there's judgment that comes with that of what a mom should have done.
Yeah.
However, if you're not in that situation, because everybody has a different level of tolerance, a breaking point.
Right.
Suicide is on the rise because there's so,
Absolutely.
and men
that's
and
what
women.
that concerns me. She had no money. She didn't know where she was going. She left in the middle of the night. My father was actively abusing her. There was a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
And, you know, I know that women today who are living with us are in those same circumstances. We have to figure out how to get there sooner so we don't have to put people, where people are not in that situation where they have to make that choice.
Yeah.
I have to leave my kid because I need to survive. Or I'm gonna take my kid and we're both gonna be homeless. It's just so painful. We have so much work to do. And I'm grateful about the conversation that people are having about trauma. For me, yes, that's important, but it's about how are we healing,
Right.
right? Which is why
Right.
Ruby's comment to me, I
Yes.
loved it. It's 'cause where are you hurting, baby? And how can I
Yes.
help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And we never really think about that
Right.
because we always say hurt people, but we don't ask you where the hurt came from.
Right.
Like, okay, we just look at, oh, you just hurt me, and we don't care
Exactly.
about how you got to a point where you feel like you need to hurt somebody else. But I think now things are changing where we are trying to figure out what is the hurt behind you
I feel
hurting
like
somebody
it also
else.
breeds an extension of compassion when you take an opportunity to really maybe see and dig a little bit deeper as to maybe why this person is hurting.
Yeah.
I know that was work that I had to do.
Mhm.
You know, once I looked out for myself, I had to go back and say, okay, well, these pieces make sense as to why. It doesn't excuse it, but I get it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and
Right.
you know, like, how do you? I mean, you can't make someone look in the mirror.
It's complicated, right?
It's complicated.
Right.
When
Yeah.
it's like you got to do so many things at one time. You got to hold your
Right,
own hurt.
right.
You got to be there if you can for other people.
Mhm.
It's a lot. I think this, and we have a lot more work to do. And I am concerned about the rise in despair and suicide. And so if we can get way upstream before these little babies fall in the river,
That's
where they
right.
start to learn that violence is acceptable, which is why Andre's work is so important.
Yes.
We have to wrap our arms around these young women and young men in a different way.
Absolutely.
So that's amazing. I love that you said that, and we're basically going to wrap it up at this point.
All right.
But getting in front of it is where we're heading, meaning prevention, getting a hold of our young. We're not leaving
Right.
those that are, have grown up. We have resources
There's
for
work
them,
to
but
do.
we want to get in front of the young
Yeah.
individuals.
Prevention.
That's why
Prevention.
Camp Hope was so important.
Yes.
So we'll talk about
We'll
that.
talk about
another
Camp
day.
Hope another time. Camp
Yes.
Hope was an amazing thing.
Right.
Dealing with youth who experienced trauma.
We
Right.
took
You know.
42 kids to camp this summer. I didn't personally.
But you made it happen. The family center made it happen,
incredible.
and it's and we will have to talk about that later. But that's just some of the amazing things that is happening at the family center. And this was a little off script. Family center. How did you come up with? Because it used to be Sojourner
Right.
Truth House.
So it was Sojourner Truth House and Task Force. We merged
Mm-hmm.
in 2009, and we became Sojourner Family Peace Center to build this co-located model.
Okay.
And I'll tell you
Okay.
one quick story before we sign off. This model around the world is called the Family Justice Center. But we said we cannot use that word justice in Milwaukee.
Yes.
So we claim Family Peace
sorry.
Center.
Yes.
So we claim the word peace because we felt like it would fit better for the work we're trying to do here.
Okay.
I
Great
appreciate
decision.
that.
Great decision.
Great
'Cause that would
decision,
would
yeah.
not have gone
No.
over well. I
Yeah.
don't think. I don't think.
agree.
So
But-
this time is literally priceless, and we just really want to thank you so much,
Thank you.
Carmen, for
Thank you.
allowing
Well,
us in your space.
You know, thank you for being such a shining example of thriving. We got to go beyond just survival,
Yeah.
right? And thriving.
And thriving takes time. You know, everybody. It
But you're
just
great examples
yes.
of that.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So
Thank you.
and we're a product of
Yes.
Sojourner.
Sojourner.
Whether
We
it's
are.
Sojourner
You are
Family
Sojourner.
Center,
We are Sojourner.
Right.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's not. So it's I'm Sojourner Truth House. You're Sojourner
Family
Family
Peace.
and
Yes,
then
so we got
together
both
we're
combined.
Voices Committee.
Yes.
So yeah, great.
I'm
spe-
here to serve you.
Yes.
So thank you guys for tuning in. It's October Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but remember it every month is
Yes.
Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Right.
We will. Can you give us the address and the phone number if you need?
Sure.
If anyone's watching who needs some services.
Sure, we're located at 619 West Walnut on the corner of 6th and Milwaukee, 6th and Walnut off of downtown Milwaukee. Our phone number, 24-hour hotline, 414-933-2722.
All right.
So thank you guys very much for tuning in. We're signing off. Natalie Hayden
And Laverne Badger.
with Exposed. Have a great day.
All right. Love you guys.